Assassin's Creed is a franchise that has been on the go for more than 15 years at this point, and with a once annual release schedule, we have just about the same number of individual games to the series' name. As the series seems to be entering a new phase as we continue to the 9th generation of consoles, this massive backlog of story and content could understandably turn you off experiencing the series, because of the sheer volume of lore, narrative, as well as game hours you'd have to go through to fully understand the series is simply ridiculous. Thankfully though, I've had both the pleasure and displeasures of following Assassin's Creed from its very first game back in 2007, and since then I've kept fully up to date not only with the game but with the novels, side stories and lore, and so I have simply too much knowledge about this series without anything to do with it. So today I thought I'd finally put all of this knowledge and experience to good use by looking back throughout the entire story of the series and look at all the ups and downs so anyone who wants to can easily understand this vast network of stories. Before we do get into the video, it would really be appreciated if you could hit like, and if you're new here make sure to subscribe with post notifications turned on. And without further ado, let's get into the entire story of Assassin's Creed. We begin our story in 2012 with Desmond Miles, the son of the mentor of the Assassin's Brotherhood, an organization that's protected the free will of people from oppression and tyranny for over 2 millennia. Desmond, rebellious in his youth, broke away from the Brotherhood. However, Abstergo, the modern day face of the Templar Order, kidnapped him from his meek life as a New York bartender in order to further the Animus Project, a scientific division of the tech giant that explores the genetic memories of subjects through means of the Animus, a machine built using ancient and advanced technology.
What is a memory, Mr. Miles?
It's the recollection of a past event.
Specific to the individual remembering the event.
Yeah, sure.
What if I told you that the human body not only housed an individual's memory, but the memories of his ancestors as well? Genetic memory.
This technology, native to a race of beings known as the Isu, is referred to as Pieces of Eden, and the Animus Project, unbeknownst to Desmond, is secretly intended to uncover lost pieces of Eden via the memories of various people's ancestors. For Desmond itself, it's Altair ibn La'ahad, a 12th century warrior born into the Assassin Order, which by 1192 is established in the mountain of Masia. After betraying tenets of the Creed on a mission to Solomon's Temple, Altair is stripped of his rank, and in order to regain his Master Assassin status, he is sent by his mentor Al-Mualim to kill 9 targets around the Holy Land. Hunting down each target, it's revealed to Altair through conversations with these men that Al-Mualim himself has been corrupted, targeting Templars involved in the Crusades that act as a threat to him taking control of the land for himself, and so Altair confronts his master. It's here when we first see the Apple of Eden, a machine created by the Isu to control the minds of the human slaves they created, which can go as far as to make mortal men take their own lives. With this power, Al-Mualim controls his brotherhood to obey and worship him, and it's up to Altair to kill his master and free the minds of his assassin brethren. Unbeknownst to Altair though, he himself, through Isu human interbreeding, has a percentage of Isu DNA that not only makes him impervious to the apple's effects, but also allows him to link to the apple, which reveals to him a map of the world that highlights numerous ancient Isu temples scattered across it. It's at this point where Desmond is removed from the Animus, as the Templars have uncovered the information they were looking for, and after his purpose is fulfilled, the company prepares to execute him. However, an assassin insider, Lucy Stillman, is able to prevent his death long enough for her and Desmond to escape Abstergo's Rome facility and return to the Assassin Order. Escaping his kidnappers, Desmond and Lucy rendezvous with an assassin cell in Italy, comprised of Rebecca Crane and Sean Hastings, who together with Lucy would set up a headquarters where Desmond could continue reliving the memories of his ancestors in order to train him the skills of an assassin via the bleeding effect. Desmond would enter Rebecca's self-proclaimed Animus 2.0, where he'd relive the memories of Ezio Auditore da Firenze, a Florentine noble and banker's son who, along with his brother Federico, saw himself in constant feuds with rival family the Pazzis. After the Templar Francesco de Pazzi was accused of murder in 1776, the Templar Order in Italy would target Ezio's family as his father Giovanni was a known assassin and an influence on Francesco's imprisonment. Through political influence, the Templars would have the Auditore family accused of conspiracy against Francesco and executed in front of the Palazzo della Signoria. Thankfully, Ezio was able to escape this execution, with his mother and sister escaping to a local brothel, where Ezio would learn survival skills from Paolo. After utilizing these skills as well as a repaired hidden blade to find and kill the man responsible for his family's betrayal, Uberto Alberti, Ezio would get the rest of his family out of Florence and to his uncle's villa in the Tuscan town of Monteregione.
Don't you recognize me? It's a me, Mario!
Where his heritage as an assassin and the wider Templar conspiracy would be revealed to him. As his uncle Mario trained him in combat, he would reveal to Ezio a plethora of codex pages written by Altair with the aid of the Apple of Eden centuries prior. And although Ezio paid little mind to it, he would be slowly convinced to stay in Italy and fight to honor his heritage by avenging his father and brothers.
We sail for Spain in 3 days.
But Nipote, I have given you these skills that you might be better prepared to strike against our enemies.
And if they find me, I will.
You want to leave Ezio? To throw away everything your father fought and died for? To deny your heritage? Fine! Come vuoi. Arrivederci e buona fortuna.
Uncle, wait! Why is he so upset?
How can he not be? Vieri's been harassing us ever since you first arrived. To be expected, I suppose, given his heritage.
Over the next decade, Ezio would travel throughout Italy, from Tuscany to Venice, and with the help of numerous mentors and contacts, would hunt down the Templars who played a part in his family's collapse, until finally, in 1486 with Leonardo da Vinci's help, he would come to realise the Templars' larger plan, to uncover a piece of Eden and take full control of Italy. Tracking down the apple that the Templars found, Ezio would come face to face with Rodrigo Borgia, the leader of the Templar Order, and in the midst of fighting him, he would be joined by the many mentors he met over the prior 10 years. As Niccolo Machiavelli would reveal to him, each of these mentors were members of the Assassin's Brotherhood, and not only was Ezio destined to join them, but he was also the foretold prophet written of in Altair's Codex.
I couldn't care less about your prophet. He never showed up.
No? But you did.
What?
A prophet's arrival was foretold. And unbeknownst to us, here you are. Perhaps all along, you were the one we sought.
After being fully inducted into the Brotherhood, Ezio would be tasked with finding the remaining codex pages scattered around Italy, and after another decade of training, he would eventually come into possession of them thanks to a map obtained by Caterina Sforza during the occupation of Romagna. After aligning each of the pages, the apple would reveal to Ezio a map of the world, similar to the original map shown to Altair, with temples highlighted across it, most importantly one in the centre of Rome. Rodrigo Borgia, who by 1499 had used his resources to become pope, sat with the Staff of Eden, aka the papal staff, in his possession. And so Ezio would be tasked with infiltrating the Vatican, where he would defeat but spare the leader of the Templars, as well as uncover a vault which showed him a message from the Isu scientist Minerva, which warned of an oncoming catastrophe, before directly communicating with Desmond himself.
Done. The message is delivered. We are gone now from this world. All of us. We can do no more. The rest is up to you, Desmond.
What? Who is Desmond? I don't understand. Please, wait. I have so many questions.
Before either Ezio or Desmond could comprehend this message, however, the Italian assassin's headquarters would be attacked by Abstergo, forcing the assassin cell on the run, where they'd eventually end up settling in the underground remains of the Auditore's Monteriggioni villa. During his first stint in the Animus 2.0, Desmond also came across mysterious coded files within the Animus software, left in a memory core by Clay Kazmarek, Abstergo's previous Animus subject. Decoding each file, Desmond would uncover a fully realized video file which showed a man and a woman sprinting through a futuristic factory. The file itself, a remnant of the world prior to the Great Catastrophe, when the Isu still controlled the world. The men and women, Adam and Eve, the first two humans to break the enslaving mind control of the Apple of Eden, and the catalysts for the human-Isu war. Within these files also lay a cryptic message from what seemed to be Subject 16 himself.
Compiling subsystems, infrastructure, tendons, heart.
Voice.
Subject 16?
Yes. Yes. Subject 17.
You're dead. I saw your blood.
No time. It is far later than you know. Too late to save them.
Who?
She is not who you think she is. Everything you hope to become, everything you hold dear, it's already gone.
Explain. Please.
Eden. In Eden, find Eve. The key, her DNA.
Tell me.
I cannot. The sun. Your son. Too weak. Must replenish energy.
Don't go!
I am with you till the end. Find me in the darkness.
As the gang reached safety, Desmond would be forced to re-enter the memories of Ezio, to try to make sense of the message and uncover yet another piece of Eden before Abstergo found the group. In order to synchronize with his ancestor, Desmond would return to the Vatican's vault, where Ezio was left to fight his way back to his hometown. Reaching Monteriggioni, it seemed to Ezio for a while as if his battles were finally at an end, but after reporting back to Machiavelli and the rest of the assassins, it was clear that his decision to spare Rodrigo Borgia would be one with dire consequences. Consequences which would come only the next day, with the papal army striking the villa and Rodrigo's son and head of the papal guard Cesare Borgia taking the apple from Ezio's uncle Mario before executing the man in the street. Ezio would be able to evacuate a large portion of the town's civilians using its hidden passages, and began making his way to Rome in order to regroup with Machiavelli. However, thanks to wounds he sustained in the fight, he'd pass out on the street. Waking up in a mysterious home, Ezio found himself being tended to by a stranger, who'd inform him that a man found and carried him to Rome, along with leaving behind a set of white robes and a hidden blade. Re-equipped, Ezio would explore Rome and find his assassin allies across the city, including his sister, who against his wishes brought herself and her mother to Rome in order to help Ezio, and after she'd become the head of the biggest Roman brothel, Ezio would build a network of courtesans, thieves and mercenaries throughout the city, progressively tearing down the oppressive Borgia influence, as well as recruiting downtrodden citizens to the Assassin Order to aid in his rebuilding of the ancient city. Over the next 7 years, Ezio and his rebuilt brotherhood would play an underground part in the Italian Wars, aiding efforts against Cesare's tyrannous conquest of the country, before Ezio would finally infiltrate the Castello Sant'Angelo to find the head of the Papal Guard killing his own father. Following Cesare, Ezio would uncover the stolen Apple of Eden, giving the assassins a powerful tool in fighting the Borgia's forces, as Cesare would fall seriously ill and eventually be arrested by Fabio Orsini under instructions from the new Pope. Before his imprisonment, Cesare claimed he couldn't be held by chains, and Ezio's suspicions led him to tracking down the military captain at the siege of Vienna, where an escaped Cesare's life would be left up to the hands of fate.
Requiescat in pace.
You cannot kill me! No man can murder me!
Then I leave you in the hands of fate.
Seeing the chaos and destruction the apple caused, Ezio felt it best to keep it out the hands of men until it was truly needed, and so hid it within a vault in the Temple of Juno, where the apple would sit for 500 years, until Desmond and the team, with the aid of cryptic messages left by Desmond's ancestor, would uncover the vault. Stepping into the vault, Desmond would be greeted by messages from Juno, the third member of the Capitoline triad of Isu scientists, whose messages could only be seen and heard by Desmond. Guiding him to the apple, Juno would speak in code and riddles, speaking of one that Desmond will be accompanied by, a woman who lies not within our sight. As Desmond took the apple from his podium, the rest of the gang froze in time, and he lost control of his own joints, as Juno would use the apple to manipulate Desmond, forcing him to walk to Lucy before igniting his hidden blade and striking her down before collapsing into a coma.
Who we abhor and honor. The final journey commences. There is one who would accompany you through the gate. She lies not within our sight. The cross darkens the horizon.
Doing?
The path must be opened. You cannot escape your part in this. The scales shall be balanced.
Stop! Please!
You know very little. We must guide you. Cease your struggle.
Desmond will lead you to the apple, and then you bring it right to us.
No!
We're counting on you, Lucy. You have served the Templar Order well, and we never forget loyalty.
It is done. The way lies all before you. Only she remains to be found. Awaken the sixth. Go, alone!
With the help of Desmond's father, the leader of the assassins, William Miles, Rebecca and Sean were able to save Desmond by placing him back in the Animus, which temporarily maintained his vitals. Within the Animus, Desmond found himself lost in a desolate corner of the inner code of the machine known as Animus Island, where he met Clay Kazmarek, otherwise known as Subject 16, the last man to enter the Animus project before Desmond, who had been stuck within the code of the Animus for years without hope of escape. It would be revealed to Desmond that his synchronization with Ezio was incomplete, that there was a memory Desmond needed to relive to achieve a sync nexus, to gain full understanding of the reason for his and Ezio's inextricable link across time.
There. That thing is your way out.
You're screwing with me.
Here's the problem. Your brain is hash. Too many ghosts in your head, too many voices. So how do you fix that? You claw your way back into the stored data, you find unfinished memories, and you crack them open. Finish what you started, until your ancestor has nothing left to show you. That is a sync nexus. And when you find it, the Animus can separate Desmond from Ezio and Altair and send you home. Back to your body.
How do you know all this?
Because it happened to me. But my body, it's worm food now. So I'm stuck here. A word of warning? when you step through there, everything changes. Nothing feels normal. But you are still in control, and it's up to you to find your way out.
Right.
If you hurry, you might make it back in time for Lucy's funeral.
What?
Oh. I thought you knew.
Lucy. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was that voice. Juno. She took hold of me. She made me... What am I doing? What have I done?
This would lead Desmond back into the memories of his mentor Ancestor, where he found Ezio exploring the home of Altair and the Levantine assassins Masyaf, now overrun with Templars who seeked the same thing as Ezio, the secrets of the library hidden in the depths of the castle. Despite taking on the Templars, Ezio would prove unable to overcome them all, and so escaped the Holy Land to travel to the crossroads of the world, Constantinople, in an attempt to uncover the keys to the library. Whilst in the ancient Queen of Cities, Ezio would meet a bookkeeper by the name of Sophia Sartor, who, unbeknownst to her, had passage to an ancient vault under her shop, a vault built by Niccolo Polo, who as it turns out was tasked with hiding the keys to the Masyaf library. Sophia, driven by a curiosity and passion for life, would form an immediate connection with Ezio, who would begin rethinking his position in the Brotherhood as he aided the Turkish Brotherhood in the fight against the Templars. After uncovering each of the keys and coming into conflict with the Sultan of Turkey, Ezio and Sophia would resign to Masyaf, where Ezio would come into contact with the remains of Altair, and for a moment, Desmond, Altair and Ezio would share a room. Discovering another piece of Eden, Ezio would resist the urge to take the apple, stepping back and speaking out to Desmond, that name he heard all those years ago in the vault. Ezio would remove his bracers and weapons, declaring he finally understood his higher purpose in the world, and finally moving on from his life as an assassin after passing on the Isu's final message to Desmond, a warning of the oncoming catastrophe that could, if left unopposed, destroy the world.
Do you hear me, Cypher? Can you see me? Ah, there you are. Good. A strange place, this nexus of time. I am not used to the calculations. That has always been Minerva's domain. I see you still have many questions. Who were we? What became of us? What do we desire of you? You will have your answers. Only listen, and I will tell you how. Both before the end and after, we sought to save the world. We built vaults within which to work, each dedicated to a different method of salvation. They were placed underground to avoid the war which raged above, and also as a precaution should we fail in our efforts. Each vault's knowledge was transmitted to a single place. It was our duty, mine, Minerva's, and Juno's, to sort and sample all that was collected. We chose those solutions which held the most promise and devoted ourselves to testing their merits. 6 we tried in succession, each more encouraging than the last, but none worked. And then the world ended.
Seeing this message, Desmond would finally reach a sync nexus with Ezio and Altair, waking him from his coma with a clear understanding of his task, as himself, Rebecca, Sean and William would reach the Grand Temple, the hub of research for the Capitoline Triad of Minerva, Juno and Jupiter. Despite being able to enter the temple with the aid of the Apple of Eden, Desmond and the gang would face an obstacle to the global Aurora Borealis device, the pedestal created by Minerva that would manipulate the numbers that made up existence into creating a protective shield over the Earth that would protect it from solar flares. Fucking hell, sometimes I do understand why people stop paying attention to the modern day plotline. Regardless, thanks to the consciousness of Juno also being trapped within the Grand Temple, it would be revealed to Desmond that the key to the door to the pedestal could be found by reliving the memories of another of his ancestors, Haytham Kenway, a high-ranking member of the London Templar Order who would come into possession of the key in 1760, and would subsequently travel to the American colonies to try to uncover the Grand Temple's secrets. Oh yeah, the Grand Temple's in New York, by the way. Why is it in New York? Because Ubisoft wanted to make an AC game set in the Wars of Independence. While in the colonies, Haytham would meet a Native American woman by the name of Zio, who he would smash into high heavens, leading to the birth of his son Rattanaketan, who would later take up the name of Connor Kenway. As a boy, Connor would see his people's land invaded by a group of Templars led by Charles Lee, who were searching for the entrance to the Grand Temple. In an effort to confront them, Connor would be knocked out, only to wake up to see his village being burned to the ground and his mother unable to escape the fiery wreckage. Understandably, a young Connor would assume the burning of his village was caused by the same man he just met, and so would develop a vendetta against the Templars for the rest of his days, even after he found out that they actually had nothing to do with it and George Washington actually had his mother killed. Awkward. Nonetheless, Connor would commune with Juno using a crystal ball bestowed on him by his village's elder, who would lead him to seek out the assassins in the colonies, and after being trained by Achilles Davenport, Connor would go on to rebuild the American Brotherhood, killing both his father and Charles Lee, and acquiring the second key to the Grand Temple, which he would bury at the Davenport homestead for Desmond to uncover 200 years later. Making their way to the pedestal, Desmond and the gang would come into contact with holographic representations of the consciousness of both Minerva and Juno, one warning Desmond against communing with the pedestal, the other encouraging it. Minerva cautioned him that if he activated the machine, Juno's consciousness would be let free from the temple and she'd be free to enslave humanity, which is kind of a weird thing for Minerva to be up in arms about considering the Isu made humans to literally be slaves, but hey, I guess she was one of the good ones.
While we worked to save the world, she sought instead to conquer it. She used our machines to set her plans in motion. Divination through numbers. There is a pattern to existence. To comprehend the calculations is to tame time. This was my focus. And so I built the eye to aid us. But she turned it towards her own ends. When we discovered her treachery, we put a stop to it. And then we left. But first we called to you, that you might try again. We thought it would be safe with her gone. Now I see we were deceived. She survived, she endured, and then she began to work. For centuries, Tinia and I walked the world, hoping to rekindle the spark of civilization. We shared what we knew as best we could. We were not the only ones, but for all the power we wrought, still death would claim us. But before it did, I would have one last look to know if we had succeeded.
That's how you're here now?
I had hoped you might find this place and finish our work. But it is too late. You and the Templars have squabbled over our refuse. You have wasted centuries, and so you have lost your chance. You cannot hope to stop the end now, Desmond. Only to survive.
She's lying! Only touch the pedestal and the world will be saved.
Better the world burn than she be loosed upon it.
Is that so? Show him then.
But he will not understand. It is complicated. It is...
Show me.
If you heed Minerva, the sun will have its way. The ground will crack and spit fire into the skies. All the world will burn. But this does not end the world, merely heralds its arrival. Darkness follows. Then you emerge, resolving to lay a foundation that such a tragedy does not befall the world again. You will become a symbol to those who survive. Hope, knowledge, determination. You will inspire them to rebuild, to thrive once more. And as the world heals, so too will humanity. But you are just a man, frail and mortal. You pass from the world, leaving behind only a memory. A legacy. You will be remembered first as a hero, later as a legend, and in time, as a god. It is the cruelest fate to have written words that meant well, and see them made wicked and unwise. What was meant to encourage life, used instead to justify taking it. And so now you see, that what was shall be again. So tell me, how is this better?
Nonetheless, Desmond knows what he has to do, activating the global Aurora Borealis and protecting the Earth, at least temporarily, from the oncoming solar flares. As the rest of the assassins escaped, an Abstergo team would infiltrate the temple to discover Desmond's body, which they'd strip the DNA of to utilize in new Animus projects, which would be disguised under the entertainment sector of their company. And so we'd suddenly take up the mantle of what essentially is a video games tester, set to explore Abstergo's newest interest, Caribbean pirates. So, re-entering the Animus, we'd begin to explore the memories of Edward Kenway, a privateer turned pirate turned assassin who in his time in the West Indies uncovered a Sage, a human implanted with a significant amount of Isu DNA that would essentially have the mind and soul of said Isu imprinted into their genes. The Sage Edward met was a descendant of the Isu Aita, the husband of Juno, and as it so happened, so too was an IT employee at Abstergo Entertainment, John Standish, who had been sent as a double agent by the assassins to discover information on the company's work. John, however, was also in fact a member of the Instruments of the First Will, a cult dedicated to the revival of Juno in physical form from the Grey, but thanks to the player character's help, John would be killed before he was able to implement his plan. Meanwhile, back in the 18th century, Edward would adopt the Assassin's Creed, dropping his mantle as a pirate and returning to London with his daughter Jennifer before he'd go on to conceive his first son Hatham, who, you know, the father of Connor. It all ties in. John Standish's body would then be used by Abstergo to launch the Phoenix Project, in an effort to understand the advanced genome of the Isu and eventually create one. The assassins, meanwhile, learning of this project, would break into Abstergo's Paris facility to destroy Standish's body, leaving Abstergo without a foundation in which to execute their plan. This left the assassins and Templars in a tug of war, in which Abstergo would go searching for the bodies of sages, bodies that the assassins would have to prevent from finding in the first place. So the assassin bishop would start—
Wait. You forgot about Rogue.
I mean, Rogue's entire story is literally Otto Berg cyberbullying the assassins.
Shay, he is dark, he's epic.
He's just a French Canadian doing a bad Irish accent.
Incredibly underrated, and frankly Rogue deserves some respect.
Okay, that's enough from you.
But it is not enough for them to die. I want them to know how weak they truly are. And I want everyone to see them suffer. So on the day they finally meet me, they will welcome the death I offer them. My plan is in motion.
Where was I? Bishop would begin hacking into Abstergo's Helix server in order to reveal the truth of Abstergo's plan to its users, requesting they search through the memories of various historical figures in order to locate the bodies of certain sages. And so, after coming into contact with the nameless, faceless protagonist of AC Unity, Bishop would send her new initiate into the memories of Arnaud Victor Dorian, an assassin raised by Templars in the years of the French Revolution. Arnaud, after being both inducted into and expelled from the Assassin Order, would discover that the Templar Order had been taken over by a sage by the name of Francois Thomas Germain, and with the aid of his high school sweetheart, he would kill Germain, leaving his body to decompose in the catacombs of Paris, to the point where his body would be useless for the Templars in the modern day. In other words, the story of Assassin's Creed Unity did precisely nothing to move the plot of the series forward. Fantastic. Moving on from there, as Bishop, Sean Hastings and Rebecca Crane would begin tracking the Shroud of Eden, a piece of technology with regenerative healing powers, Bishop would go on to send one of their initiates into the memories of both Jacob and Evie Fry, twin assassins from Industria-era Crawley who travelled to London to destabilise the core of Templar power there that was built by Hatham and Reginald Birch almost 100 years before. Over a 6-month span, yes, 6 fucking months, Jacob and Evie would take control of half of London's industries, as well as build the most notorious gang in the city, the Rooks. Kill me. This would involve Jacob crashing the world's economy, Evie becoming best mates with Karl Marx, and plenty of other wacky hijinks that eventually led the two to uncover the Shroud beneath Buckingham Palace, and after killing Crawford Starrick, they were able to prevent the Templars getting their hands on it. So, Sean and Rebecca, with the help of the assassin Galina Voronina, made their way to the Shroud's location, only to find the Templars, led by Otto Berg and Violet DaCosta, and after a bit of conflict in the underground crypt, and a non-lethal shot to Rebecca, DaCosta would escape with the Shroud in hand, bringing it back to Abstergo's labs to aid the Templars to create an Isu. However, it would be revealed that Violet DaCosta was in fact a member of the Instruments of the First Will, and as Abstergo began to grow bodies, DaCosta looked to reincarnate the soul of Juno in a fully fledged form.
Hello? It's me? Brought the Shroud as you asked, but I'm scared.
Do not fear me. You've done well.
I'm not scared of you, I'm scared for you. Anyone finds out what you've been doing.
You have played your part, my instrument. I will save you. I will save you all.
A few years later, Abstergo would send Layla Hassan, a member of the historical tactical team, to Egypt to uncover a piece of Eden that the Templars considered valuable. At some point in the years preceding this, Layla, in an attempt to prove herself to Abstergo, developed a version of the Animus that would allow her to read damaged DNA, even of people who weren't related to her. We don't know how, we don't entirely know why, but we do know that this Animus was portable, and so when she discovered the burial site of Bayek of Siwa, she would explore the memories of an ancient Egyptian Magi, just before the turn of the millennia. Bayek, after losing a son to a mysterious cult known as the Order of the Ancients, would go on a revenge mission with his wife Aya, and after the two came in contact with Cleopatra, they'd be tasked with eliminating the Order's presence from the country, as to allow her to take complete power from her brother Ptolemy. Bayek and Aya would carry out this hunt, before eventually Cleopatra, alongside Caesar and Apollodorus, would betray them, leading them to realize that they needed to stand for something besides those in power, that they needed a creed that was higher than any nation state.
Hold on. I was wrong! I am responsible. When my boy died, I fought back with rage and anger. But this only made them stronger. We are all different, but we fought together to put Cleopatra on the throne. Now this was a mistake, my friends. But at least it brought us together. Now our enemies are hidden behind crowns, walking in the shadows of kings and queens. Who are the ones that walk in the shadows for the people? We are. Something has come of all of this, and it starts right now. We must continue the fight and defend the free will of the people. And no matter how small, our brotherhood is the only hope, and our kingdom needs no crowns. What we believe in, our values, our creed, will unify us. And I promise that for all the songs of Egypt, I will be the father I was not that day in Siwa.
And so Bayek and Aya would establish the Hidden Ones, a precursor to the Levantine assassins that would be spread into Rome and Eastern Europe by Aya, who would travel to strike the first blow in the assassination of Caesar. As Layla awoke from these memories, she was confronted by a man who claimed to be William Miles, although as you can see, it's clearly not William Miles, is it? Like, come on, that's a different man. After meeting her for only a minute though, William would offer her a place amongst the assassins, which she understandably took after Abstergo murdered her girlfriend. At this point, Desmond's illegitimate son Elijah Miles, a sage who had been captured by the Templars, was being used by the Instruments of the First Will, who in 2018 broke into Abstergo's labs in an attempt to reincarnate Juno using Elijah's DNA. This reincarnation was a success, meaning the main antagonist of the series, the goddess who had been planning her return and her enslavement of humanity for 10 years, had been fully revived in a comic book. But it gets even better, because the assassin Charlotte de la Cruz would then go on to kill Juno in that very same comic book. So the main story of a 9-game series was resolved in a piece of side media that most people didn't even know existed. Jesus. It's at this point where the mainline games entirely broke all semblance of lore the series had to create an absolutely laughably bad, entirely nonsensical, incomprehensible game known as Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And for that I will never forgive Ubisoft, but alas. Layla works with the assassins, finds the Spear of Leonidas, relives Cassandra's memories, eventually meets Cassandra, who is wearing a Savile Row tailored suit, gets the Staff of Hermes passed onto her, which grants her immortality, she kills Victoria Babo, paralyzes Otto Berg. Why did the game that entirely ignored the lore of the modern day also have a fuck ton of important modern day content? Anyway, that's all that happened. Nothing else matters in Odyssey. Let's forget about it. By early 2020, the effect of the global Aurora Borealis machine that Desmond activated back in 2012 had become near catastrophic, with the Earth's magnetic field getting 50 times stronger, leading to mass radiation and interference with communication signals that caused many satellites to be taken out of orbit and to fall from the sky. After Layla joined a team consisting of Sean Hastings and Rebecca Crane, they received a cryptic message that led them to a Norse grave in North America, where Layla would begin reliving the memories of Eivor Varinsdottir, a Viking that fought under Sigurd's Styr Bjornson's Raven clan in England after he lost his throne in Norway. Building a village named Ravensthorpe, Eivor and Sigurd, with the help of the Hidden Ones Basim, would traverse the land, occupying territories and making alliances with kings across the counties of England. It seemed Basim, with his student Hytham, had travelled to England to dismantle the Order of the Ancients, and whilst Eivor aids them in that effort, it's made clear that Basim has ulterior motives. This is due to Basim, along with Eivor and Sigurd, all being reincarnates of various Isu, who used the 7th method of salvation to imprint their souls onto human DNA. This method, referred to as the Mead when Eivor relives the memories of Odin, was a last-ditch effort to prevent the Isu's extinction, with certain Isu using similar technology that Juno used to imprint Aita's DNA onto humans, including Odin, Freya, and Tyr, to create reincarnations of themselves, which end up being Eivor, Svala, Sigurd, and Basim respectively. After these Isu had left imprints of their DNA, Loki would break into the facility and use the machine to imprint his own DNA, which of course would lead him to be reincarnated as Basim. Loki's goal? To get revenge on Odin for the death of his son. Sigurd, meanwhile, is set on what he calls fulfilling his destiny, which leads him and Eivor to the Yggdrasil, the Life Tree, an Isu site in Norway that allows the user to live on in a simulation of their liking, which for Eivor and Sigurd is represented by their vision of Valhalla. Entering Valhalla, Eivor and Sigurd find themselves in a constant recurring battle for glory, where none of their wounds last longer than a day and they're allowed to fight and feast to their heart's content. Eivor, though, would recognize this simulation as a lie and fight to break Odin's control of her mind, with both her and Sigurd breaking out of the simulation. Outside of the Life Tree, Basim would appear to take Sigurd hostage, and Eivor and Basim would fight each other until eventually Basim would be locked into the Life Tree, and Eivor would return to England to take control of the Raven clan. Outside of the Animus, Layla would travel to the Isu Vault in Norway to attempt to find a way to slow down the continually increasing magnetism of the Aurora Borealis. She'd be taken into the Life Tree, accidentally dropping the Staff of Hermes that was protecting her from the radiation of the vault. Within the simulation, Layla would discover a liminal space where she'd find Basim, who with the complete Isu network of data, was able to see across time to send the message to Layla. He would present Layla with a pedestal that, if activated, would, at least temporarily, slow down the Aurora Borealis, which despite working, would also release Basim out of the tree and send Layla into the Grey, where she would discover the soul of Desmond Miles, left only as a glowing silhouette called the Reader. For the previous 8 years, Desmond had been reading countless possible outcomes in which the catastrophe never happened, with no success. Layla, however, would suggest a new idea, in which the two scour possible timelines in which Desmond allowed the 2012 catastrophe to happen, to see whether any of the surviving humans would have found a way to break the node and prevent the catastrophe from happening again. Realizing that she had dropped the staff and would now be a victim of lethal radiation, Layla makes the decision to stay with Desmond to aid him in uncovering a timeline that would prevent the world's end.
Thank you for your insights, Layla.
It's only the beginning. We have a lot of data to sift through.
Are you staying?
Until we find something useful, I will. I don't want this to happen ever again.
You may not have much time, Layla. The machine is powered down, but the radiation, it will linger for decades. By my calculations, you have 73 seconds before your exposure is lethal.
I'm not worried. I have the Staff of Eden. It heals and protects.
No, you do not.
What? How? Of course.
Of course?
Fuck! Alright. We'll find a solution together. However long it takes. And if that means I can never leave, so be it. I owe this to the people I hurt. The people I love.
Yes. I know the feeling.
Let's get going, huh? A few billion timelines might take a while.
It will. But it will not feel like it. That is what I like about this place.
Meanwhile, outside of the Grey, Basim would be revived by the Staff of Hermes, which would be revealed to house the soul of Alethea, Loki's wife, which was apparently their plan the entire time. Honestly, you could call this contrived, but looking at this series, contrived villain plans are kind of its entire foundation. Basim, dressed like a Discord mod, returns to Sean and Rebecca and goes on to request a meeting with the mentor of the assassins, William Miles. But again, it's not William Miles, is it? And then we had Mirage, which would resolve none of these modern day plot points. Now, Mirage was a solid game, however it did little in the way of progressing the main story of this series. We jump back a few decades from Valhalla to see Basim ibn Ishaq, a young orphan thief in Baghdad, who alongside his best friend Nahal would break into a palace to discover a memory seal, the like we'd seen in Revelations. This would eventually lead Basim to be captured, only to be rescued by master assassin Roshan, who would bring Basim to the legendary Alamut Castle to be trained in the ways of the Hidden Ones. If you didn't know, Alamut is the stronghold from which the real-life Hashashian would exist, and its inclusion in Mirage is a beautiful hint to the origins of this entire series. During this time, Basim would face horrifying visions of a genie, an evil spirit that resided in him that we of course know to be the soul of Loki, reincarnated into this novice assassin. This spirit would draw Basim towards the vault beneath Alamut's interior, which also happens to hold the memory seals that we see both in this game and in Revelations. Altair would discover this vault years later in his journey to Alamut, which allowed him to warn Ezio and subsequently Desmond of the second Toba catastrophe. Wow, when these games get the writing right, they are so fucking good. The Hidden Ones in Mirage predominantly act to safeguard the vault, and it's a landmark Roshan even hides away from Basim, as she sees the spirit of Loki within him, and makes efforts to make Basim forget his past life. Roshan understood that considering the Order of the Ancients' Isu supremacist ideals, Basim could act in great benefit to the assassin's greatest enemies, and her dogmatic approach to the Creed clouds her ability to see the potential knock-on effects of hiding the truth from Basim, allowing her fear to supersede her logic, in the exact same way Odin's fear of Fenrir and Ragnarok acted to potentially ruin any chance of preventing it. However, after acting out his assassin duties in Baghdad, Basim led the fanatical Order of the Ancients to Alamut to uncover the vault, forcing Basim to cut down Roshan to enter, where he discovers Nahal, the human counterpart of his genie, who reveals to him the suffering and torture he faced in his past life. Loki, as we see in Valhalla, was a victim of alienation, and the act of Roshan standing against Basim seems to act as a catalyst for his embracing of his darker past, as the neglect and lack of trust that drives Loki in Valhalla is faced almost exactly by Basim, pushing him to become the manipulative and isolated figure we see by the time Valhalla comes around. As he's faced with the realities of who he is, Basim is able to banish the genie and reclaim both parts of his soul, putting into action the plan to avenge Loki's son by hunting down Eivor.
This memory I buried of this place, this prison, the torture I suffered here, it festered for years. In darkness and dreams, masked as a jinni, to haunt me and hollow me until it consumed my waking life. But I have faced my past, my pain, embraced it. I shed my skin once, in another time, another place. But I am whole again. I remember. And as for those who thought to bind me, should any of them still walk the earth, I so look forward to our reunion. But until that day, a new world awaits.
In the decades following these events, Roshan would travel to England to recover a scroll from an Order member with the help of Eivor, which she would then take to Jerusalem to plant the seeds of the Assassin Brotherhood we see in AC1. This though is left vague, and perhaps we'll have the opportunity to see this elaborated on in the next chapter of this franchise. Perhaps in Shadows we'll see the overarching story of Assassin's Creed make a return, and progress in some kind of meaningful way. But based on the trailer we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if Valhalla stands as the final chapter of that story, and Mirage stands as an epilogue, rounding out one saga of the series. Going forward, I see the series almost starting anew. Everything we know so far will be washed over. The stories of Desmond, Elijah, Juno, Layla, Basim, they are done. And now it's time for a new story to be told. But what do I know? We've only seen a CGI trailer. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed or learned something, please do hit like, and if you're new here, hit subscribe with post notifications turned on. With all that being said, I've been Joe, aka Found a Scarab, and I'll see you in the next one.